In a world with entirely too many shows about cars, this is another pointless automotive podcast.
Hello, friends, and hello, Chadwick.
Hello, friends.
Welcome,
Also,
everyone.
hello.
Hi. To what? I know what. Another pointless automotive podcast.
Nailed
Another
it.
episode thereof. Chadwick, how the heck are you?
Good man. Good man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I just got. If you're watching from home, maybe you could see I got some sun. I was down in San Diego. I am now back to Northern California. Excited to talk about cars and things. Specifically, you know what? Maybe it's because I was outside basically this whole weekend. And end of last week, out where it was sunny and like enjoying the chirping birds and things and screaming people at Legoland. And I kind of wanted to talk about the opposite of that, which is staying inside. And hearkening back to our youths of staying inside and avoiding the sun on a hot summer's day and playing automotive video games.
Yes, sir.
Were you? I know you fancy yourself a wee bit of a gamer.
Yeah.
What,
It's that title's iffy, right? I don't think I'm qualified to be called a gamer, but I do enjoy a video game from time to time.
Have you ever ordered a pint of a gamer babe's water, like bath water, like to your house in like a jar, and like you just have it for reasons unknown, or
No,
are you
but I
not that
chug.
hard into?
No, I chug G Fuel all the time to keep my late night
Oh, yep,
XP grinding sessions good.
some
So.
Code Red. Yeah.
Mostly Code Brown.
What are you drinking? What are you drinking today? Is that Code
Garage
Adjunct
water.
Lager?
Yeah.
Okay.
Miller
There
Lite.
you go. I've got a sweet focal banger. So this is like a top flight East Coast only, impossible to get out here, but I stumbled upon it. Beer. It's highly rated. I do recommend.
Is
Speaking of
Stumble
recommend,
still a website? Do you remember that? Stumble Upon or whatever?
Stumble?
You remember
Oh
that?
no,
Stumble
is that like
Upon?
Casual Encounters? No, I
No,
don't.
no. It's just something that kind of linked you to like subjects. So if you were looking up something, you could find more interesting things. Or at least that's what I remember.
Oh,
It was
okay,
one of
like
those old
a
school internet
topical
things.
thesaurus.
Kind of. It's like related though, so it's not just. It's like
Sure.
I don't know. It's. I think it's supposed to keep you entertained for like a long period of time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Unlike the rest of the internet.
An artifact of the old
doesn't-
internet.
I know. I was thinking about that earlier. I don't know why it popped into my head, but I was thinking about do you remember shareware?
Of course, dude.
Like just the whole concept of that is like so alien, like shareware and shareware.com and like just like trying demos and like early zip files and just like all that stuff that's like so alien now, like doesn't even exist. Makes me sad a little bit.
Different times, man. Different times.
It
Just like
really
these
was.
video games we're about to talk about, right? Because we're talking.
Exactly.
I took your cue as like kind of like we do the print ad quiz show. I focused on 80s,
Yeah.
90s, some early 2000s games of the
Sure.
automotive
Yeah, I mean that's
ilk.
my wheelhouse. Yeah. Like when it comes to playing video games, I'll dabble occasionally. I don't play nearly as much as I used to. Certainly by any stretch of the imagination. And I was never like hardcore into video games, but I definitely got my game on. What kind of game? Like, should we go in chronological order? Like, where did you start? Like, what was one of your like earlier? Yeah, like
So
what
I
are your
set my
earlier
list
games?
up that, and I've got a few moons on you, I believe. So I started
Just a
off.
few though.
Yeah, a few.
Not that many.
I grew up in the Atari 2600 time frame.
Ooh, I have one here at the house.
I still got mine too. Pole
nice.
position, man, was like one of my
I thought that was a strip club.
Well, that was the hidden level. You had to beat the final race, and then you get to see.
Fair.
What was that? 2-bit or 4? It wasn't even 4-bit. Anyway, 4-bit nipples. We'll just call that for context. But it was so cool, man, because it was like the sound was horrible. It's like it's like different levels of a horrible tone. And when you crashed, it always, even as a kid, I thought it looked like a scrambled egg on the screen.
Yep.
It's just like, I don't know. Good game, but that's where I started, and I got really addicted to that. It was a pretty fun game, really hard, really horrible like difficulty curve. But after that, did you have an NES? Were you?
I did. So NES was
folk.
NES was my first real system. However, I did, and I don't remember too many racing games on it because I was quite young. but my mom had a Commodore 64
Ooh.
that we used to, and she still has it somewhere, I think. But a Commodore 64, um, and it would be like it was basically just like a big chunky keyboard and just like a giant floppy disk
Mm-hmm.
drive that you would hook up to your TV. And I remember the only game I remember with actual like driving involved is we had a Ghostbusters game, and you would like drive like you can pick what your Ghostbusters mobile would be. So
Oh
like you can
shit.
pick like a like a C3 Stingray uh, Corvette that was
Makes
purple for
sense.
some reason, or you can pick just like a pickup truck for some reason, or the Ecto Cruiser, like the proper car, and then like you'd always like get stomped on by the Marshmallow Man. It was very similar deal, like 0-bit, um, yeah, like no technology, but that was early. But I did have an NES. Did you have any like star NES racing games that you remember? I remember two specifically, but I'm curious what you had on
Yeah.
your NES.
One of my favorites was a game called Rad Racer. I don't know if you played that one.
I
You
don't
could
remember that one.
race. It was kind of like modeled after real cars, but not really. You could race it
Okay.
day and night. And one of the best features, dude, that was like my favorite, which was unheard of in the Nintendo era, was one of the directional buttons could change the radio station
Oh,
for
that's sick.
regular Nintendo. I mean, there were like 4 MIDI tracks you could
Yeah.
select, but for something that was like unheard of, man.
No, for sure. Like that's crazy. And it's I can't think of any NES games where the cars were actually real cars. Like they were
Yeah.
all like I think they were all too low res to actually have like anything that they can try and they're like, look, it doesn't look anything like a Ferrari. We're not going to pay a licensing agreement to Ferrari or whatever to call it a Ferrari and have it not be a Ferrari.
Right.
Um, but the only two that I remember really spending time with on NES was, did you ever play NES RC Pro-Am?
Oh, those games are awesome. So I have a Super
So
Nintendo game
good.
that's an evolution of that, which
Oh,
I'll get into that a lot of people don't know. But yeah, RC Pro-Am, that was sick, dude. Like
that game was so
isometric
good.
view. Yeah, the
Hmm.
isometric view, the controls were wonky. The arcade game was super cool because you could play with 4 players.
Yeah, yeah, and it had your little car with the little tiny antenna coming off the top, and you just
So
that game.
cool.
I loved that game when I was whatever I was 7, 8. I was
Great game.
way into that game, and then I also had I was into God, what was it? Hold on, let me go back to my notes real quick. I'm
Oh
gonna forget.
no.
Oh yes. How can I forget? Um, did you ever play a Bigfoot, like the monster truck
I rented it
game?
once. I never owned it, but I rented it once. Yeah.
Back, how about that? Renting games. How sick.
I mean, that was
There
what
was a
you
little
did,
hole in the
right?
wall video place. There was a little hole in the wall video place called Eastman Video that was around the corner from the house I grew up in. It was like your neighborhood independent video game rental place, and it was,
Sure.
3 day. You can rent it for 3 days for $3, and that's what it was, and it was fabulous. And I was like twice a week, I would like force my dad to take me, and we would go rent a game and and play it. And some of them like we'd rent. Like I think this Bigfoot game I rented, like I paid like 125% of the cost to purchase it,
I
but I
could
just
have
kept
just bought
renting
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like most of it was like you're a top down, you versus a single player, it's like side by side and rate like just racing, and there were like huge mud puddles. And the
Hmm.
intro scenes and the cut scenes were hilarious. There'd be like some like super pixely like chick in a bikini next to like a pair of um like ridiculously giant monster trucks, and then like you can pick up power ups, and you got like a saw blade that was on the front, and you just like chop up the other monster truck, and it would just blow up into like a shower of pixels. um and I want to say there was like a bonus, like halfway through you get like past the third level, and for extra points you would do like a tractor pull with your monster truck, and you would get like power ups throughout the way, so you can like upgrade the stats. It was like surprisingly good game for an NES game, and I just remember being like deeply into it because monster trucks, and when you're a kid, it's like kind of the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. I got to go to like they called it, like, it wasn't Monster Jam yet, it was just like a monster truck show.
Hmm.
And I won because I drew a picture of Bigfoot, and I sent it into like a radio station, and they picked it, and I got like 4 tickets to go free to see monster
Yeah.
trucks. So I did Gravedigger because who doesn't love Gravedigger? That's where it's at.
You know what? That's funny. So my younger brother was a Gravedigger fan while I was the Bigfoot fan, and they were like the two rivals. And I think I had the better monster truck. I think his was the cooler monster truck. Like in retrospect, like all the scripting and stuff, and um, but I think they're still going on. I think the Gravedigger is still um and then they have like the son of Gravedigger or something like that, where like his actual son is like doing the monster truck too, and it's like slightly different, but it looks the same.
You know what'd be
Um,
completely shitty and not an homage at all is to buy like an HHR panel van and do it like Gravedigger with the red headlights.
I
It's such a
really
bad
like this
idea.
idea. I really like this idea. It has to exist, right? Somebody's had to have done
Someone
this.
must have done it. Yeah.
HHR SS panel, like Gravedigger homage.
There's definitely
That's
a Venn
actually
diagram, right, of old people that have HHRs, old people that like Gravedigger, and that like shared
sure.
space, the confluences, like people have done that.
And they might soon have to have their estate hire a Gravedigger to like roll them into the grave because it's the age demo that they're in.
Just get buried in the back of your panel, HHR, baby.
That's true. In it, it becomes your coffin.
Exactly. Just
Upon
pad it up.
That's right. I mean, that was. Did you have? What was your next generational? Did you go SNES? Did you go Genesis? What did you do? Like after?
I stayed with Nintendo during that period, so definitely moved
Okay.
right up to Super Nintendo. And I got a few really solid games I got to mention here for Super Nintendo, my friend. Classics.
Shoot, because I went Genesis, so I'm curious what like some of them ported over and a lot of them didn't. So I'm curious to see.
So really easy ones: Mario Kart and F-Zero. They're obviously racing games, but they're more cartoony and fun. But the one game that's not any more realistic was this gem called Rock and Roll Racing. Did you ever play this one? So here's the.
I don't think I did.
So if you liked RC Pro-Am, that same isometric view where you're kind of that weird top angle, weapons, it's all science fiction. You raced on different planets, you were different aliens, real rock music like Black Sabbath, Deep Purple playing. And guess who it was made by? Blizzard, the guys that made World of Warcraft.
Got it. Yes. There you go.
Absolutely. So if you liked RC Pro-Am, dude, Rock and Roll Racing would be like epic to you.
You know what's a lot like that, and I don't have it on my list, but when you were talking about that isometric viewpoint, it reminded me, and I believe it was popular enough they probably had it on SNES. I remember playing it on Genesis.
Super off-road.
Was the Iron Man, the Iron Man Iron Stewart.
Well, they had that for Nintendo too. They had off-road, and then they had super off-road.
Yes, because you're playing. And I think I remember playing it ported over to the Genesis, I believe, was the super.
Wait, so you were a Genesis man, not a Super Nintendo man?
Yeah, I went Nintendo. I got Nintendo for Christmas of whatever that would have been, 1989 or something. And then I had maybe earlier, maybe 88. And then I had Genesis that I also got for Christmas in whatever that would have been, 94, 95.
No, so you're way off, dude. Because like Nintendo came out in like 85, 86. Genesis came out in
but
like
I didn't
90 or 91.
It wasn't like new when I got it. It had been out for a while when I got it. I remember being, I think, in like first grade. I was born in 83, so probably 88, 89, probably more like 89. So it would have been end run Nintendo. And I remember like not being like not wanting to play video games at all. And then like I was at a friend's house. And I was like, here, why don't you just try it? And I was like, oh my God. Like it was like my brain flew out of my brain. It was like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And so I went NES and then Genesis. You know what game I had on Genesis?
Oh,
that was really interesting because Genesis, when I think of Genesis, I don't think of a whole lot of racing games, but
was it Road Rash?
Yes.
Dude.
Road Rash was so damn good.
So good,
that game was so sick. I had so many hours in that game. Mostly Road Rash 2, which like the gameplay and the graphics were almost identical, but you just got way more bikes and you got
features,
more features. The level development was more complex, and that you would like the way you would interact with things that you would hit were better. But what a game, man! Just every bit of it, just the absurdity of it at the time. Like this was pre Grand Theft Auto, so the fact that you're like on a motorcycle, like hitting people with chains was like,
epic.
Oh my God, this is crazy. Like, yeah. So did you get a chance to play that game a lot?
I didn't play it a lot. I played a little bit. I loved the arcade one. The graphics were so much better. See, back then, like the arcade machines were like high-end PCs, so they had way better graphics.
Yeah,
And all the
they'd always port
versions.
them
Yeah, all
over
the
to
versions we're talking
console.
about are like dumbed down console versions. But yeah, Road Rash was really fun, dude. It
Yeah.
was tricky though, because the whole time you're playing, like people are coming up beside you and you're having to switch sides and still drive on like crazy courses. So it was a pretty interesting gameplay mechanic.
Yeah, and I remember like 9-year-old me or however whatever however old I was, just finding it the funny like when you would hit someone, you could hit like pedestrians and stuff and just hit them with your motorcycle. And when you'd hit them, they would scream. And for whatever reason, the same thing would happen if you hit a snowman. So like on the snow levels, if you like hit a snowman, it would go "Ah!" like and it would scream. And 9-year-old,
Interesting.
10-year-old me thought that was the funniest thing in the world, and so I would go out of my way to hit snowmen, even though it would like cause me to lose the race. It was poor choices.
Probably just a
Have
kid
been made.
hiding inside the snowman. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that was my thing. I was just like waiting for like bones to come flying out of it. Um, what did you? And by the way, we're completely setting PC aside. Did you get some PC games, or are we going? Or is that too far out of order? Like where?
That's a little out of order. We're getting there though, because like PC really didn't come on. I didn't play PC stuff till maybe like 97 or later.
Okay. Yeah, I was pretty
Because
early in in PC stuff, but not really the racing games on PC. So I think we're kind of in line.
yeah. So I don't know about you, but I went to Sega Saturn, which was an unpopular system choice at the time
Didn't have a Saturn.
for a good reason though. It was like did you go to arcades at all?
Rarely. I didn't go to
Okay.
arcades that much. I was more the rent the console game kid than go to the arcade game
So I
kid.
used to crush some quarters at the arcades, and one of these racing games that came out that just really redefined this segment was Daytona USA, which
Yeah, I do
was
remember that game.
so good, so good. And that was so when you bought a Sega Saturn, you got that game, and
Yes.
Virtual
Okay.
Fighter, which was another arcade darling at the time. So it was like that's why I went with that system, because I was so used to the arcades. But Daytona was cool because you had like you each sat in the cars and it lined you up, and you were
hmm
racing against live people, and it was like one of the first applications of that in an arcade.
Yeah, that game, I think that game is still in arcades.
It's pretty
Like
popular. Yeah, it
like
was a
it's still out
big
there.
game.
Um and it was, yeah, that was super popular. It had the big banked turns. And I like how they gave you credit if you chose to roll your own gears. Because if I remember correctly, the top speed, if you chose the automatic option, the top speed was like 198 miles an hour. But if you picked manual, had that big clunky like shifter in the arcade game, then
Rev it
your
up.
top speed was like 202. So you got to go faster if you were in the manual transmission car, as the good Lord intended.
Yeah, good. What a cool game that was. So that was my forte into Sega Saturn. Did you do
Yeah.
PS1? Were you a PS1er?
No, so I stuck with I stuck with the Genesis up until 64. So
Okay.
I went Genesis, then back to land of Nintendo, and I went N64.
We did like a forbidden cross.
Oh
We
God.
did like a forbidden crossover. Like you quit Nintendo to go to Sega. I quit
hmm
Sega to go to Nintendo, or in the
You quit
future I
Nintendo
will.
to go to yeah.
Yes.
You quit Nintendo to go
We
to
kept
Sega Saturn.
crossing the streams there, but yeah.
We did never cross streams. But yeah, like they so on 64, and 64 was not really known for its racing
Not really.
games. Um Wave Racer 64 notwithstanding.
Mario Kart.
However, and Mario Kart, yeah, obviously, Mario Kart, but one when it comes to actual cars that I had an enormous amount of time in was San Francisco Rush.
Oh, those games were good. Those
Those
games were
Rush
good.
games were good, and I'm a little fuzzy. I don't remember, partially because I haven't waxed my body in weeks, but I'm also a little fuzzy because it's just been so long since I played any of those games. I don't remember if it was California Rush that had the stunt track in it,
Oh.
because there was San Francisco Rush, California Rush, there was like Rush USA. There were a bunch of those. I think Rush USA. I don't remember. I honestly don't remember. But
Huh.
I think it was like Rush USA where you had the stunt track and there was like a big half pipe and like all these different stuff, and
That's
you can
freaking awesome.
customize and build your own car. And I had so many hours trying to like break that game,
Yeah.
and I figured out a cheat, no, not a cheat, but like a glitch where
Oh, shit.
because you can when you like you can adjust like weather conditions and stuff before you start the level. And so if you put the wind all the way to like extreme max, and you went like as fast as you could, like right at the end of the half pipe, and went straight up at this perfect angle, the wind would take you like outside of the map, and you would just like tumble around in space, and you would get like a 10 million barrel roll, bonus or whatever,
Pro
and it would
gamer move,
glitch the
dude.
game. Exactly, yeah. It was
Pro
just
gamer.
early pro gamer moves. How about you? Did you have a 64? Did you do
So
PS1, PS2? What'd you do?
no, so I kept
Atari
going. Well,
Jaguar?
I stuck with Sega for a little while, so I went to the even more
Oh no,
celebrated Sega
not a Dreamcast
Dreamcast.
kid. Oh
Yeah,
no.
dude. So Sega Dreamcast, but there's this one game, and I'm gonna go on a little rant because this is a
Rant
game
away.
that,
You've
and
earned it.
it falls on PS2. So when we get up to PlayStation 2, the series continues, but it started on Dreamcast. It's called
Okay.
Tokyo Extreme Racer, and the first one was by Import Tuner.
Ooh.
What makes
Wow.
this extra cool is that it's mostly Japanese cars. There's like Dodge Vipers and some random stuff sprinkled in, but they never got the licenses. So everything in the game is chassis codes. So you better learn your like Japanese chassis codes. It's so crazy,
Ooh.
dude. Even the
That's
BMWs were
borderline
all chassis
educational.
codes. Yeah, so like it's kind of, but the cars looked exactly like they should, and it was big
Right.
because this was when did that come out? Like early 2000, so right in the Fast and the Furious movement. So you get body
Yeah.
kits, modifications, and the whole purpose of the game, dude, you're racing on a Japanese highway, right? And you pull up behind
Mhm.
other rivals and you flash your high beams, and it starts a race. I shit you
Oh,
not.
that's
And
sick.
then you
That's
don't
so
you
good.
don't you don't just race to a point. You race and you each have a spirit meter. And when you're winning, like it starts to go down for the other person, right? And when you're out, you lose. But if you're way ahead, the meter drops really quick. Like if you get in an accident and the other guy's gone, you just lose. It's like such a cool, like I don't know how those games. Someone needs to redo those, but it was so fucking cool, dude. Like you could just like straight up come up someone, flash the high beams, take off.
Did you have like a go-to car? Like
Ah,
was your default
so
your
yeah,
default go-to?
when you beat the game, there's this 240Z that's just unbelievable. So the second boss is like a 911, and then they find out the fastest car is like a 240Z, totally like over 1,000 horsepower, and it's just a sideways the whole time. It's
It's
really
the
good, dude.
it's the Escudo Pikes Peak of of that
Gran
game.
Turismo,
Um,
yeah.
exactly. Um, no, I'll have to check that one out. I'll have to
I'll
go.
send you some like
You know what's
YouTube videos. It's
That's the
so
thing
good.
nowadays. It's and like you can find probably like a 15-minute review slash playthrough of any game ever made on YouTube
I
nowadays.
still have them all.
Um,
I still have my Dreamcast and like my PS2. Because the rest of the series, I mean, we're jumping into PlayStation anyway, but they released like a bunch of other like games in that series. And they released one called Drift, which was basically Initial D, right? So you had the cars
sure.
and you're up in the mountains and it's like drifting the corners and it tallies up points. But the biggest part of that game was the first game to ever feature a Mitsubishi Galant VR4. I don't know why it was in a
Ooh.
drifting game, but it was just like the first time I saw it, I was driving and you drive by like parking areas and that's where you see the rivals. It's such a
Mhm.
cool concept, man. And then I saw a Galant on VR4 and I'm like, what the fuck is that? You know, like freaking out back in the day. I'm like, no one knows about
That's
this
funny.
obscure car and it's in the game, dude.
That's fantastic.
So cool. But
Lovely.
that series,
The Evo Zero.
you would love that series. I gotta get you some of that action.
Maybe that's what we do is we have an APA game night, and we
Yes.
just like we become streamers. First off, we become streamers, right?
Twitch it up.
We
Yep.
get into Twitch, and we do an APA podcast gaming night where we can even just put all of these games in a hat and then pull them out and be like, oh, it's that one, and like set it up real quick and then play whatever it is, Pyongyang Racer or whatever we're gonna play.
Right.
By the way, have you ever played Pyongyang Racer?
I don't think I have.
Look it up. It's I believe it's only on PC. And it's actually like it was published, I believe, by the government of North Korea.
Oh god.
And
This definitely
it's
falls
like
out
if
of
you
our
go,
year range for topics.
it does, but if you go like off the track, I think it's from like it might be the mid 2000s.
Okay.
Um, and like if you go off the track, it like nope, you can't do that, and like put you back on the
Oh,
track. Like,
gross.
you have to like obey stop like traffic signals and stuff, otherwise you get booted from North Korea. It's bizarre. Um, but yeah, I did not pick up a Dreamcast. I did not cast my dreams far enough.
Shame.
I instead went to PS2. So I went N64 to
Hmm.
PS2. Again, I was not particularly brand loyal. I did skip though. I did have a Sega Game Gear, but I
Okay.
don't remember. I don't think I had any racing games on it.
No, I don't
I
know if
remember
I
I had
did.
Terminator 2, and it was very difficult. Um, and a couple other things, maybe like a Streets of Rage port or something. But I had PS2, and well, we'll come back to it. We'll touch on it.
Oh.
When we'll come back to PC games, but PS2, I mean, it's for me it was Gran Turismo 3. It was specifically Gran Turismo 3
Yeah.
out of all of them. I mean, obviously PS1 you had 1 and 2, and then you can play them on PS2. But I did my Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours, I think, in Gran Turismo 3.
3 was
Um,
good. 4 was just 3 with more cars. So it was
yeah,
equally freaking awesome.
yeah,
Love both of those games. Talk about the graphics,
yeah,
man. What a jump. That was like the biggest jump ever. It looks so real. Remember how real you're like, oh my God, how can this even be happening? It looks so real. And you look at it now, you're like, oh shit. Okay. It's okay.
yeah.
For its time though.
We need to find a way. I need to find a way while we're talking about Gran Turismo 3. And I haven't tried this, so maybe I can do it. But just like behind us, have a music bed of like the the menu when you're like in the tuning part of
Uh,
Gran Turismo 3 and it's playing that music that like I can fall asleep to. Like I remember like
the lobby
yeah.
music. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
so
the
good.
lobby music. It's so good. It's transcendent. And I remember on that game, this will date both it and me real quick. I remember like staying up late playing that hooked up to my parents had an old projection big screen. It's like a
Mm.
50-inch Mitsubishi like projector big screen that they got on clearance somewhere and had it in the living room. And I would be playing that um, at, I don't know, 10:30, 11, 12 o'clock at night. But I knew I had some friends that were going to hop on to AOL Instant Messenger and like want to like chop it up. And so what I would do is that was in the room across basically like across the hallway. And so I would have that computer like with the volume cranked up, and I'd be playing like 24-hour endurance races on Gran Turismo 3. Um, but with the volume cranked up, so if somebody like went and the AOL Instant Messenger like door opened and one of my friends hopped on, I can like pause it and like chat with them for a little bit, like, all right, I gotta go back to racing, and then I'd go back, and then I'd go back to just absolute madness, like the most like late 90s, early 2000s, really late 90s experience possible, like peak 1999.
Hell of a game.
Now on that game, did you have a specific? What was your go-to car?
I can't honestly, it all
There
kind
were
of
so
blurs
many.
together. Yeah, because I played every one. So like I played 3, 4, and then 5 and 6 for PS3, and then PS4 had sport, and then the newest one, Gran Turismo 7, is quite epic. It's
Explain. I haven't
it's
played it. I
it's
haven't played
so
anything
good.
past three.
Dude, I
I've only
jumped.
played up to three.
Yeah, so I jumped on Gran Turismo 7, and I was like playing with a VR4 3000 GT, and you can switch
Of
every car
course.
to interior view where they've fully scanned the interior. Every gauge works like it should. Like when you're on boost, the boost gauge is accurate, the speedometer is equal, the engine RPMs. It's just like, what the fuck? And apparently, I'm not to this level yet, but the VR experience is unbelievable. People
Oh.
have parked their cars in VR and just kind of looked around the environment. It's that real. But you can go in the garage and look in the cars. You can touch, like, feel around the cars. It's like apparently some next level crazy stuff. I'm
Yeah,
not there
that's
yet, but the game is
I
brilliant.
mean, I'm
It's so
jealous of
real.
that because I've heard kind of the same thing. Um, just like I've also heard VR adult films is absolutely cheating, which probably, but I do know.
No, shit, shit.
Wait, is that a headset behind you? Um, no way, man.
This is my
But like,
waifu, my
but I've heard
waifu
it's like
pillow showing.
exactly, it's wearing a headset. The but no, I've heard it's like the people that get like deeply into that with the full setup and the VR or like Assetto Corsa and some of the other like kind of immersion, hyper accuracy. Like the driving dynamics are perfect. Um, I don't know. It's like I don't know.
Dude,
It
you
seems
get.
really cool.
I've
I
heard
would
you.
love to get into it, but like I need to
People get
retire to do
motion
it
sickness
proper.
because it's so real. Like you get the rush of speed and everything, and then when you hit the brakes, you don't get the gut feeling, so your stomach hurts because it's anticipating it. It's just like it's so crazy. Apparently,
You got blue stomach. Yeah, it's I don't know. Like it's I don't know. It sounds super cool. I'd love to have a go. And like
yeah.
the full setup with like the shifter and everything
Oh, I've got
and
the. I've
the
so I've
wheels
got
that
the.
give you feedback.
Yeah, I've got this. I've got the wheel because I used to do it for sim racing when I practiced when I couldn't race. So I have the. I have a sim racing setup. I just don't have
Sick.
VR.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
that far in.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, dude, we skipped PC.
We could do a little PC if you want.
Yeah, but it's not time for PCP, but we can do PC
Are we done with
without the P.
before PS2? One final one that we can't skip over is Need for Speed Underground.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I played the Need for Speed games on PC.
Oh,
That's where
yeah.
I played
So
them. Yeah.
the original ones, which were like, that's where I learned, and I'm definitely going to talk about that too, is where I
Yeah.
learned my exotic knowledge because that's what those games focused on at first.
Yes.
But Underground was like a whole shift from like, and then Need for Speed Shift was another thing. But anyway, Underground was so cool because it was like body kits and underglow and like shitty music. And it was just, but the sense of speed was so good and it like nailed the Fast and the Furious stuff. Those games are absolutely legendary.
Yeah, it's like they took what they learned from Need for Speed, the Hot Pursuit series.
Oh, such good games. Still
Because
fun to
those
this
were
day.
they are, but they were like ooh, it's like there's this like rebel kind of feel. You're not just like racing and like bumping into other cars and like, but like the whole point of the game almost is that you're running from the police.
Right.
And you eventually lose and whatever, but like that's what you're doing. And there's like, how can we make this even more outlaw? I know we'll do the whole underground thing where you're like illegally modifying your cars and
Street racing.
sponsored by, yeah, exactly. Um, Genuinely cool. I played a little bit of Underground. I didn't get I don't have a ton of hours in it. The earlier games, however, I've got a lot of hours in it. Did you ever play like the original ones?
Yeah, I did. And like it was cool because you had like I can't remember, was it a Carrera GT was like the fastest car in the earlier one? I don't know. It was always between that and the Viper was a good
So
mid-level. It was all exotic stuff.
yeah, like the original one, which I had on PC as Need for Speed SE, which I think like just gave you an extra track.
Oh,
Um,
Road and
but what
Track
was cool,
presented it
that's
though.
exactly
Yeah.
it was Road and Track presents Need for Speed, and so it was cool because you would have obviously the racing part of the game, but there was all this extra media in it, as you said, that would like educate you about the car.
It
And
was
so
cool.
there was like exotics. It wasn't pure exotics because if I remember correctly, I'm gonna try and go in order of slow to fast if I can. Let me see if I can pull this off. It's been a while. So you had the FD-RX-7, which I think was yellow. Each car was only in one color. There was no customizing. There was none
Right.
of that. This is that. You had an FD-RX-7. You had a red Supra twin turbo Mark IV.
Mm-hmm.
You had a an NSX. You had a silver NSX,
Yes.
first gen NSX. You had I think the next fastest car was a Carrera, not a Carrera GT, but just a Carrera, like a nine nine.
911. Yep.
I guess it was a nine. It would have been a 993 911 Carrera.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had the C4 ZR1, which was in polo green. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you had a Viper, which I think was blue, like blue with white stripes.
It was a
Viper RT10.
GTS. Was it RT10 or
I think it was
GTS?
an RT10.
Ah,
I think it was before the GTS because this was like game in like 94, I think. 94,
okay.
95. And then you had a Testarossa, or it was I think a 512 TR or a
Same
Testarossa.
same
I think
family. Yeah.
yeah, same deal. I mean not, but yes. And then the top dog was a black Viper RT, or sorry, VT, Viper
Mm.
VT, or no, sorry, I'm miscombobulating my critters. A Lamborghini Diablo VT.
GT. Yes.
Yeah, V as in Victor, T as in Tom, and that was like the top dog. You can go 200 miles an hour. It was like the one and a half.
Sweet car.
And each one of those cars, you get a whole like media set, like you would click on, and like you'd have the history of it. It would show you all the history and photos of the prior gen cars, and they would show like a video, like a super 90s, like 45-degree angle shot, like splash cut. Like for some reason, there's a guy sweating and like swerving cones, and there was a fire in the background. Like super dramatic 90s, like cut of like 90 seconds of just straight video of each car, telling you about it, and have all the specs, like the real world specs. It was super cool.
Yeah, those games were sweet.
And then there was the second one, and then the third one, Hot Pursuit, and like the cars got way crazier. And then Gran Turismo came out, and then it was like, oh, I have every car ever, so whatever.
Right, right. Welcome to Japanese cars.
That's right. Yes. Any other? Are we missing any?
I think we nailed a lot of those during that period, man. Like a lot of them. Like honestly, my biggest ones, obviously, Gran Turismo is easy to say. Gran
That's a good
Turismo, but dude, that Tokyo Extreme Racer series. I think that's where between Gran Turismo and that is where I got my like JDM like
Sure.
infatuation.
Yeah, Jones.
Yeah, for real.
How come there's not a somebody should make like a USDM version of that where it's like Gran Turismo, but it's like all like the
Grand
call it from like
Ams
the
and
60s. Yeah, like kind of dog
muscle.
shit cars. Well, muscle, yeah, you have the muscle cars too, right? But like, just like you would have like your Toyota Vitz or your like Suzuki Alto Works, like kind of interesting but like not fast. Like you had all those in Gran Turismo. Yeah, you have your Grand Ams and your your whatever, insert like shit piles 1960s to today of like just
Sure.
USDM, like domestic stuff. That's just our beloved Quad 4, all of that.
Oh.
Needs to happen.
Yeah. I think I had a Corvette game for PS2, if that counts. It was just all Corvettes, and like you had to like pick out the right cutoff shorts, the jean shorts. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, if your New Balances weren't laced ultra tight, like you
or
just
anything but white.
Exactly.
Dude, yeah, good topic, man. Like I think we nailed the good stuff, man. I don't think we forgot anything.
Can I shout out potentially the worst video game of all time?
Right? Is it going to be the trucker one that you always call out every time you get a chance? Remember I told you about the Lot Lizards mini game and I had you going and you were like, what?
First off, that should exist. Secondly, you have to play when we're done here. You have to at least look up like
I played that game.
Like playthrough. Oh, good.
I told you I played it. It has no physics. You can go right through anything and there's no hit detection.
Yeah, you like fall off a cliff and you just like stick to the face of the cliff as you go up and down it. Like
yeah, there's no.
If you go in reverse, there's no speed limit, so you just can accelerate in like perpetuity.
It's gross. It's a gross game.
And when you win, it just says "your winner." I'm like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, it's even grammatically poor.
Yeah, you can't win them all.
You can't win them all. You know what? I am hoping I can win.
Oh snap! All right, let me get something up for you, and you can explain to our listeners a little thing we like to do. What's it called again?
Generally,
what's our generic?
It up for me? No, you're name. This is our generic, perpetually unimaginatively named print ad quiz game.
Close enough.
Where in this episode, Chadwick here is going to find a piece of print advertisement, potentially from a magazine from the 80s, 90s to the mid 2000s, and he's going to read the type copy of that ad. It will then be upon me, Frank, to figure out in 3 guesses or less what make and model and hopefully approximate year that this particular ad is about. He will redact overly identifying the bits and pieces like the actual make and model. I get 3 guesses. I get 10 minutes. I can ask for some hints in between the guesses if I need them. Chadwick, you got something for me?
Oh, I got something for you, buddy. So here's the ad. It shows a couple embracing in a staged, I don't know, kind of romance in the background, kind of interesting, behind the vehicle, which is doing almost a perfect side profile shot right in the middle of a 2-page spread. So it's taking up the center portion, running edge to edge.
I don't know why this already feels like a General Motors ad, but carry on.
We'll see.
We will see.
Okay, so there's some specs floating around. We'll do those last. I want to read the body of the ad first. So
Mhm.
it comes over you suddenly.
Oh,
The moment when driving goes from pleasure to passion. I think that's why they had the two people.
it's got
Before
it.
you
Yeah,
know,
Lover's Lane.
fucking brilliant ad men. Before you know it, you're under the spell of the blank. You'll be swept off your feet by blank's sexy lines and 140 horsepower, 16 valve dual overhead cam engine, moved
Yeah.
by its 5-speed manual transmission and powerfully affected, that is so poorly written, by its 4-wheel independent suspension with front and rear stabilizer bars.
Oh boy.
So get to know blank. It turns driving into an emotional experience. And I've got some bullet points for you, my friend.
Thank God.
Aggressive 15-inch alloy wheels.
Oh,
I'm on a roll. 4-wheel independent
sure.
suspension. This shit is so bad. 4-wheel independent suspension with front and rear stabilizer bars. It keeps me in line.
Ooh.
I don't
Oh,
need.
is it? That's kind of. It's a bit aggressive, like with
It is.
everything that's going on. Like, okay, carry on.
Okay, again, the engine's going to get a second nod here. 140 horsepower, 16 valve, dual overhead cam engine. No funny subtext with that.
Oh man.
Driver's side airbag
Okay.
and a security system.
Ooh,
24-hour roadside assistance.
that's good.
That is
Promising.
it, my friend. So I can and at the bottom it
Ooh.
says the specs again, and it also mentions the 16 valve dual overhead cam engine.
Well, that's good.
So you have 10 minutes, my friend. Enjoy. That heap of
Not a whole lot to go on.
Ooh.
140 horsepower is a pretty popular horsepower figure for a four-cylinder in the late 80s to really late 90s.
Mm.
Um, this could be a Celica GT or GTS, which would be the 5S FE powered one, so the 2.2 liter. That would be the, what is that? First, second, third, fourth, fifth gen and sixth gen, maybe.
Mm.
Those don't have a dead axle rear. It could be a B13 Sentra SER or a 2000 NX. I don't know when those cars got a driver's airbag, if they got a driver's airbag. It wouldn't be a B14 because that car had a dead axle in the rear, so not rear independent. I don't think this is a Probe or MX6. I think an MX3 doesn't fit the bill. I don't know if that has a dead axle. And this is just me shopping around Japan.
Mm.
Could this be? I guess this could be an Integra, like a second gen Integra or a third gen Integra. But it'd be weird that they weren't boasting about the GSR because this would
Mm.
have been a non-GSR model. Okay. I'm going to flail wildly, not wildly in the dark, but I'm going to
Mm.
flail in the direction of the dark. I'm going to go with I'm going to say this is a 1990, let's say a 1993, 1992 Toyota Celica GT. Final answer, Bob.
That does not turn driving into an emotional experience. Not in this
No,
case. I think
no,
it would because I like those cars, but
sure.
that's not what we're talking about today.
Yeah, and it's tricky because I feel like sometimes they advertise those as having 135 and other times they have 140.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. You're right.
Um,
140 is a pretty common kind of
how
horsepower
about
number.
this? Would it be too much? Would it be too much to ask if I'm in the right country of origin, or is that too much? Is that too big of an ask?
Hmm. It's kind of a big ask. I mean, it's also kind of tricky. Is that your hint?
I don't know. I don't know.
um,
How about this? Um, the moniker that it's sold under, is that the moniker of a Japanese manufacturer?
it is not a Japanese manufacturer.
Okay. Um, so depending on how much trickeration you're playing with there.
Usually quite a bit.
Usually a fair amount. Okay, so we are ixnaying the nation of Japan.
Mm.
Um, if I'm looking at Europe, really the only thing would maybe be like an E36 318, like a 318 Ti. I don't think that's what we're working with here. Just doesn't feel right. Nothing from Benz. No, no, no. I always forget that Volkswagen exists, but I don't think
You do.
I don't. This doesn't feel because if this was like a Corrado, there'd be some G60 supercharger talk. If this was a Golf GTI, it doesn't feel like a GTI ad. Um, and I don't like it would be a Mark II 16 valve, and that's not even a 2 liter. I'm gonna take the bait on your earlier hint within the hint,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna
Inside baseball.
say I'm gonna go inside. We'll climb inside of a baseball, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna think this is. I have a problem. My problem is
We don't have time for this.
advertisements exactly. It itches. No, the problem is advertisements that aren't about the top line model or don't reference that a top line model exists. Like I would want to say like, oh, okay, maybe this is just like an entry level, like a non-turbo Eagle Talon or a non-turbo Plymouth Laser.
That's where it gets tricky, right?
An NA
Right.
car. But like it's usually it's like with available turbocharger or
Hmm.
available all-wheel drive or like and when ads don't mention that, it's such a red herring to think like, oh, well, they're only advertising the top spec. And because of your little trickeration nuance, I'm just gonna take the freaking bait and I'm gonna say this is I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna say this is a Plymouth Laser.
Mm.
God, RS. I don't remember what the trim specs were on those. I'm gonna say this is say a 19. God, when did they put airbags in those? Did they put airbags in those?
Mm.
No, they did because I had a buddy who had a 1G Talon, and smoked a median, and caught a face full of airbag.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm gonna say this is a 1992 Plymouth Laser. Final answer?
So RS non-turbo.
Yeah.
You're not getting shot by the laser today, my friend. It's something else.
Yeah. Quit humping the laser. Um, boy, I didn't start a timer. What am I working with?
2 minutes
Okay.
and 39 seconds, my friend. Zero pressure. Zero pressure.
Trying to think if they rebadged something. I got no door. Um,
5-speed manual.
can I get a
Four-wheel
door? Can I get a door count?
independent. Oh,
I've been operating under a two-door assumption this entire time.
your assumption is correct, my friend.
Okay. Okay. That'll be my hint. I think that's fair.
Four-wheel independent suspension, 5-speed manual,
15-inch alloys. Did it say
15
alloys? I
inch.
don't know. But 15
It
inch.
did. It did.
Okay.
I'm on a roll.
You are on a roll. Your butter. The golly, and I'm ixnaying Japan. Um, could this and this is just me realizing there's approximately Oh, somebody's shooting fireworks off outside. There's
Big
approximately
hint since you're down to a minute
Yeah.
40.
Oh,
You ready for it?
yeah, shoot.
Well, what were you saying earlier? You were saying something about, well, my hint within a hint still stands.
Okay.
So that's a hint, but also
Mhm.
this is the top of the trim line for this particular vehicle. So big help there.
Top of
This
the
is
trim line
not a
for this
base model.
particular vehicle. It's a captive import of some kind.
Ooh.
Sports car. Man. It can't be a Mercury Capri XR2. I'm not buying that. It's not unless it is. The horsepower's close. But no, it would have mentioned turbocharged. That's dumb. I don't want to be up against the clock, but I am. Yet here I am.
42 seconds.
Oh, but who's counting?
I can start counting if you want. 38, 37. No, just kidding.
So it's not. It can't be the stable. It's definitely not the stable mate.
2-door front wheel drive.
Yep. It's not an MX. It's not a probe.
Sold by another automaker under a different name. Same car.
Yeah.
10 seconds. It was a really crappy movie about weather phenomenon that just came out a few years ago.
First off, Twister is fantastic. All right. Well, I'm out of town. Let me just
shoot it out there.
Shoot from the hip. I'm gonna say this is a.
Threw all I had at
I
you,
don't
buddy.
know. I know you did. I know you did. I'm flaming. I gotta pull the ripcord here. Let's go. What's the I've got it. It's on the tip of my brain. I don't know. Dodge Stratus.
No,
Final
that's
answer.
a good guess. This is a 1992 Geostorm
Oh
GSI, my
man,
friend.
I should have had that. That's
the ad
it.
is absolutely brilliant. I mean, also the color.
The color is brilliant. The passion is palpable.
So what was special is this only came in a 5-speed manual, had the more high horsepower. This isn't a Isuzu Impulse.
Yes.
So that's why I tried to give you that hint. But yeah, front wheel drive, 140 horsepower.
I should have had that. That's a good car.
It's a good car.
I've always had a soft spot for those cars.
You can't find them.
Even back when they were like deeply unlovable and
Still
people
cool.
thought you were a clown, I always like they kind of look good. Did you ever remember seeing back in the day there was like a viral video of like one stuck in the snow and a guy like face first and there's a guy he hooks his Jeep Wrangler up to the back and looks like to like the back tow hook and pulls and it just pulls the whole
whole
rear
back clip
like off. Yeah.
So good.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I don't think that was an Impulse.
These things looked awesome. I mean, it was really an Isuzu, so I mean that's why it looked like a cool Japanese car. But man, you cannot find them. They were really rare. The GSIs are pretty rare to start off with. But that engine's pretty good. That's the same as you'd get in like the souped up. It's an Isuzu engine, so 140 horsepower.
I genuinely want an Impulse RS, like a nice Impulse RS. They don't exist anymore.
Yeah, I passed on an 1100.
One that was beater, right?
Yeah, that $1,100 one with the Mountain Dew can as part of the intercooler. Hard pass.
Quite refreshing intercooler. Well, I didn't get it this time.
And Geostorm, that shitty movie about the like crazy weather effects that came out like a few years ago. It was literally called Geostorm, and everybody did like everybody did memes where they put the Geostorm in the ad, the poster for the movie.
Oh, I never saw Geostorm. Man,
I never saw it either, but I know of it.
We should. Okay, so we're gonna have a video game night. We're gonna have Geostorm.
Watch Geostorm.
Geostorm watch party, and everyone has to hopefully arrive in a Geostorm. Man.
Fair attempt though. You did well.
That's the 140 horsepower 4-cylinder is like ubiquitous to like the early 90s.
It is. That's good horsepower for that year though. 92, 140 is
That's
good
a 2-liter in that, right? I think.
Yeah.
What 1.8?
I can't remember. They did have 1.6s to start.
Right, and like
the bases,
like 115 horsepower guys or whatever.
Yeah, they had a couple different engines that were floating around.
Geostorm.
They were dope.
Pulled up the movie? Like, no, not the movie.
See?
Yeah.
You could get them in yellow too.
Uh,
I guess we got to close this out. We're like way up on time, I think.
yeah, we're bumping into it. What have you been bumping into with wrenches or other things?
Oh, so this is a little section we like to call PCP,
Let's
Project
do it.
Car Progress.
Yeah.
So I've been working on, it's not mine, a 2001 Chevy Tahoe. Couldn't pass smog because secondary air wouldn't become ready. And that's a fickle system no matter what. And it's purely
Yeah.
a California thing. No one else in the rest of the country. It doesn't affect drivability. It doesn't do anything but cause you to buy expensive parts for your car to get it past smog. Anyway, so the air pump won't become ready. This part has been discontinued by GM for quite a few years. You can't find an OEM replacement. It just doesn't exist unless someone had one squirreled away in their garage. So you have to check it. And it came as one big unit with everything in it, all the sensors. There's like I don't know. There's like everything, man. It's like so many lines and everything, but it used to come as one big package deal where you could unbolt a couple things and slap the new one in. Not anymore, but it was like $800 back in the day. So it was expensive.
Sure.
You can buy this. You can buy the actual vacuum pump, which is what I went ahead and did after I took everything out, cleaned the sensors, made sure the relay was functioning. I tested resistance on everything. Everything's good. So I think it is the vacuum pump, but it's one of those things like you're freaking doomed if it's one of those other components. You have to go to a junkyard, or I looked on eBay. I couldn't even find anyone selling this stuff. So you're just shit out of luck if you have one of these vehicles and the secondary air does go and it's not the pump.
Which
Um,
is which is bizarro to think because they made
Hundreds
those
of
cars
thousands.
forever and
Yes.
in droves and in Chevy name and GM name. It's the same
Same
parts in the
thing.
Suburban and in the Silverado and in the whatever, like the pick your poison. It's like ubiquitous. So it hurts at like, I don't know. It seems silly.
What's crazy too is I guess they're prone to fail because the one I removed was pretty old looking. When you get that corrosion on it,
Yeah.
it's a Dorman part, so that was an aftermarket part. So this is not the first time this vehicle's been through this little
Yeah.
song and dance routine. So I'm going to swap that out. Hopefully that takes care of it. I went to Disneyland a couple weekends ago, last weekend. I can't remember anymore.
Yep.
Anyway, I got back and there's a coolant puddle under that truck now. So guess
Yay!
what? I have PCP for another week. But
Ooh
how about you,
boy.
man? What have you been up to?
Yeah, and then just real quick, pro tip, if you go through all the secondary air stuff and it's not wanting to set, try the upstream O2 sensors
Hmm?
because I've bumped into, at least on a BMW, on a E39 5 Series, where the signal, it was the ECU was getting signal from the upstream O2 sensors, which were old and worn out, and they were signaling right, and that was causing the ECU to think that the secondary air system wasn't running properly, wasn't
Interesting.
running efficiently, because the way it figures that out if it's working properly or not. But if it's not throwing codes, if it's just not setting the monitor, then it pulls that data off of the O2 sensors. And if the O2 sensors are giving the ECU shit data, then it just thinks, oh, hey, I don't know why it hasn't set the secondary air.
Yeah, I wonder if it's
Um,
set up the same in this GM. We'll have to see. But yeah, that's a good point. But I think
things
this
to
will
think
take care
about.
of it. It looks pretty old, so
Yeah, and I've taken care of nothing.
see you next week, guys.
Yeah, that's. Whoop, see you later. No, I did get one thing, and it's here. I'm gonna show. We're gonna do this in real time. If you're watching video at home,
Sorry.
yeah, I apologize. But I got my 924 motor mounts in the mail today
Oh shit! Look at that.
from England. So somebody that's like completely redesigned from the original one. It's just like, here, we'll open it up. Here, you can hear the bag crunching in the mic for effect. Okay, and so it's like this metal
Okay.
cage. The other one is like this really like intricate like all rubber thing, and this just has this rubber biscuit and like this
Okay.
bracket, and it's machined. And we'll see. It seems more stout.
That's super
Hopefully, it
nice
doesn't
looking,
rattle my
dude.
teeth out.
Yeah.
Vibra Technics compliant technology. And so I got a pair. So
Yeah,
only
you do.
one is bad, but I don't want to put. I do, and I don't want to put only one in. That's like this weird
Oh
aftermarket
god.
one, and have the other one like it'll just destroy it. So I got two,
Nice.
and
That's
that's
a
it.
big deal, dude.
I've ordered parts.
Yeah, that was an endeavor though. That's not just like getting on like Rock Auto and buying parts though, man.
No, I mean those came from the UK, and they were on like a global planetary back order. And I got a message. I got a message like 2 days ago saying like, oh hey, like we don't know when the manufacturer is going to send them. And then like an hour later, I got like, your order has shipped. I was like, oh, what the hell?
Oh,
And so they finally showed up. I'm not going to have time to get them installed this upcoming Friday, I'm doing a quick little driving rally with the DWA guys, your friends, my friends over at Driving While Awesome. So I won't have time to get prepared for that. But that's it. That's all the progress I made, which was stand there while the mailman handed me a box.
Yeah, it's a big deal though. It's a big item. But
It is. It is.
let's close. Let's put a fork in it.
Let's wrap it up every time.
Yeah. So thanks to all you wonderful listeners out there. And we really mean that. Thanks for listening. You guys can listen to us anywhere. You can listen to a podcast and feel free to rate and review our podcast on that platform. We appreciate any feedback. Of course, we also have a visual paired with the audio component on YouTube.
Yeah, check it out. Or don't.
Subscribe. We're still doing free subscriptions, right, Frank, for the YouTube?
Yeah, still free 99.
Okay,
we're
cool.
doing that. If you want to see me, which you don't, but if you do, I'm the photographer's garage on most of the things. We together as one are at APA Podcast on the Instagram. Tell your wife, tell your kids, tell your friends, tell your local plug. And how about your plug? Where can people check out what you're up to there, Chad?
Oh, yeah. If you want to look at such things, Auto Obsessive Garage, mostly on YouTube, sometimes on Instagram, just rescues, restorations, and reviews. So we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time. As always, take care and thank you very much.
Toodaloo.
Peace.